Well, the first time I recorded this, I didn't have the mic set up correctly in OBS, and it was not using this mic. It was using a mic from my computer that I'm recording this on. So then I went and made this whole backdrop thing that you can see here, and then I re-recorded another episode. So I've just been recording for 2 hours, and then in the second video, I made the mistake of having the audio appear twice, both captured by the camera and by the microphone. So then both audios, like one was like 5 seconds behind, so then my whole thing was all messed up there. So I have already talked about this ad nauseum for 2 hours. So I'm going to repeat myself a lot. Not in this video, but in my head. So just bear with me. It's a very lackluster start to this new series that I'm doing, but what this is, it's just going to be a show that I do. It's not a podcast. I'm not going to label it a podcast because there's going to be cuts. It's going to be a video. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to, edit it, but it's more of like a longer form video than what I usually have been doing, which is just I talk about one topic, I make a video, I edit it, and post it. I haven't made a basketball video in a while. Mostly been trying to figure out how to do this type of thing. But what I'm interested in is just kind of that long form. I can have sections. I can section out parts. Maybe if I ever cave, I'll incorporate it into a shorts thing. I can't do shorts though. Short form content's not for me. I don't enjoy recording it. It is unfortunately the way that you're supposed to get views. So, maybe, like I said, maybe I'll cave one day, but that's not going to be today. And no disrespect to short form content people. You guys are great. So this is being recorded on Sunday. As of right now, the finals for both college basketball, men and women's, have not happened yet. Although if I record this another time, it will be around 3 o'clock when the game starts, Eastern time. So that hasn't happened yet. I am going to talk about some college sports. I'm going to talk about women's sports. But yeah, it's gonna be a shorter show, probably, because I've already done this 2 times. So I appreciate your understanding. Without further ado, the first thing I want to talk about, women's basketball. So good right now in college. We're seeing all kinds of headlines. We're seeing all kinds of people talking about it. Everyone on Twitter is watching the games like it's taking over. And it's not just taking over because of, it's college sports, so it's women. There are stars. Okay, we're not watching teams. We're not we're rooting for UConn. We're rooting for Caitlin Clark. We're rooting for Paige. I don't know if everyone's rooting for Angel Reese. A lot of people seem to be mad at her. We'll get to that in a second. I think overall the women's game is in a great place right now. And when you really look at women's basketball and the WNBA specifically, it's only been around for so long. And when you look at it, they're kind of in their Bill Russell era, if that makes sense. Like for the WNBA, maybe they were already through the Bill Russell era, but we're talking about the NBA was basically bankrupt, and then Magic and Bird came and saved it. And you're kind of in a spot right now, not that the NBA will ever stop subsidizing the WNBA, but once the WNBA becomes self-sufficient, it's going to take off and it's never going to look back, because the faster it grows, the more money it makes, the more money the players make, the more women want to do it, because that's the thing. A lot of women are staying in college because the NIL that they're getting is more than they're going to make in the league. Obviously those players eventually go to the league and they're going to draw a lot of attention. And a thing that's really important with this is that, women have not been marketed until recently. NBA players get marketed, right? You see guys like Tatum and Draymond with their Subway commercial, Zion on the 2K thing. There's all kinds of commercials where you see athletes and NBA players specifically, in those. But you saw Angel Reese, and I don't remember which of her LSU teammates it was, but they had a commercial that I saw. These stars are marketable, and people are realizing that, right? As homophobic or racist or sexist as someone might be, if someone like a woman is going to make them money, they are going to make money. You know what I mean? They don't care. They're not oh, I hate women so much that I'm going to lose money to not promote them. No, that's how you do it. Unfortunately, by giving those shitty people money. But it gives them a platform, right? So women's athletes, especially in college right now, have a platform. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, they are in headlines. They have mainstream media coverage. This is real, and the hype is real, and it really is reminiscent of like the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese thing, LSU versus Iowa. Like, that's literally Indiana, Michigan State. Like, that's literally Magic Bird. Like, that's crazy to think about. And you can figure out for yourself who's Magic and who's Bird, okay? They're being treated the same way they treat the men, which is still poorly, and that's kind of what Angel Reese was talking about. And the thing with Angel Reese, too, is, like, she is setting herself up for some of it, and some of it she's not, right? Like, she's playing the villain. It's hard to, like, not agree with her, like, on a lot of it. Because the sexualization, like, that's true, right? Like, she does not have a ton of things that, like, you will see, like, a lot of people see media. They're like, oh, well, clearly she posted this. If you check her socials, like, if you actually go and check her socials, there is none of this, like, bikini photos, and, like, you go on her TikTok, that one video of her, like, those things are not on her socials. Like, those things that you're finding, like, where you're saying she's sexualizing herself, they're not there. If anything, her fans are the ones that are sexualizing her, because you look and you see all these, like, Angel Reese fan pages, and they have all those, like, sexualized photos of her. Which, yeah, she probably went to, like, Sports Illustrated or whatever and got those taken, and she did, like, a swimsuit cover the same way a guy does. But, like, people don't go to those swimsuit covers that dudes do and, like, make a whole fan page and post all that stuff and be like, my favorite player is so sexy. Like, don't do that. Stop doing that. It's an invasion of privacy, honestly. Because it's one thing if that's your brand, right? If you're doing that on purpose and you're sexualizing yourself. But people need to stop sexualizing the players. There's always going to be gross men on the internet. That's unfortunate. But you can do better as the people trying to support them. Stop doing stuff like that. And then also, yeah, like, Russell Westbrook, very, like, out of nowhere for me, was just kind of like, all right, I hate all of you fans, and I'm going to get into you. I'm getting into it with you guys. And I've seen a lot of videos, like, especially the one in Charlotte. He has a balloon hat. The dude is like 30, and he's wearing a balloon hat at a Charlotte Hornets game. You're not going to defeat him. Just ignore him. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's okay to call people like West Brick and stuff like that. And I'm definitely not saying it's okay to send people death threats, because that's unacceptable, right? Like, you can't do that. You can't accept it. You can't, like, allow people to do it. But at the same time, there's definitely players that get it more. And it's obvious, again, like, I need to word this carefully, because I am not trying to insinuate that it's the player's fault for them receiving death threats and whatever. But it is their fault that they are creating a negative image of themselves. So, like, they create themselves in a negative light, right? They're the villain. Not Russell Westbrook. He was just, like, the scapegoat by Lakers fans. But with Angel Reese, she was the villain, right? Like, Caitlin Clark did a celebration for 2 seconds in a different game, and then when LSU beat Iowa, she's, like, walking after Caitlin, like, and she's a menace. She's a menace. And if you don't think that's good for the game of basketball, that's your opinion. But personally, I think that's great to taunt and to, like, whatever. When Curry was dominating the finals against Boston 2 years ago, and he hit him with the, like, ring me celebration in Boston, in TD Garden, the night thing, I didn't like it. But that's because he was doing it to my favorite team. So it's like, you have to understand, like, yeah, as a player, you're kind of bringing this on yourself just a little bit of like the negative attention. Like, you're pissing people off on purpose. You are choosing to be the villain, right? Like, Kobe did stuff like that. And he was very willing to accept that negative energy from the fans. There's that great commercial of him where he's kind of like the director, or not the director, you know what I'm talking about, like the conductor. He's, like, conducting the fans, like all the mad fans, like the Raptors fans and Celtics fans, and like, I've been hating you for so long, like that thing. Ignore what I just did. But when Kobe did that, like, it was him acknowledging, like, yeah, I chose to be the bad guy. And I'm not saying that you have to, like, accept death threats because that's terrifying. Like as an athlete, that's a separate issue. If anyone disagrees about death threats being bad, lost cause, honestly. But I think that as a fan, obviously we need to do our part and be more respectful to the players. But there's a line, right? Once we do our part, the players still need to understand that if they are pissing fans off intentionally, the fans are going to boo them. That's just how that's going to work. Again, death threats, way too extreme. But if you're going to be the villain, you're going to get the villain treatment. It is what it is. But I just think Angel Reese should probably acknowledge that of like, listen, we acknowledge that she's a person, right? Anyone watching this should acknowledge that we're all people. You know, it's not okay to tell people that they should die or that their family's going to die or make an actual threat that you are going to be the one killing them. Because that's terrifying. But in addition to that, to understand that you're getting negative attention and people are happy that you're losing, that's because you're the villain. You're the bad guy. You made yourself the bad guy, so people are going to root against you. You know what I mean? They're going to prey on your downfall. So understanding that dynamic, separate from the extreme, and understanding that you created the negative dynamic with the fans, like that's what you did. So, people are going to, hate you. They're going to root on your downfall. And that's kind of what it is with like being successful. And when you're successful, people look for anything to tear you down. There's obviously some exceptions in the NBA that I've talked about before. Like Ant Edwards gets love. He gets love, dude. And Shea last year was getting love, but now the Thunder are good and people hate him. And it's just so weird. It's just so weird. Like, I know the Wemby fans, like the Spurs fans hate him because of the, like, Chet versus Wemby thing, which, by the way, not close anymore. There was definitely a point in the season where, like, Chet had a chance at the Rookie of the Year. But then Wemby was, like, not getting minute restrictions as much, and, like, he was dominating, and then it was like, that's over with. You know what I mean? Like, Wemby just took over. So, definitely the Wemby fans don't like the Thunder. The Wolves fans don't because the Ant fanboys and the Chet the Shea and Ant fanboys respectively hate each other. Then there's also like all of the stuff with the after the game interviews, the post game with like both Jalen Williamses, just like whoa, like reacting to Shea, like whoa, holy shit, they're teammates and they like each other. Oh my god. They're so corny. They're so cringe. Stop. Just stop it. Just stop it. So people like to hate. Angel Reese is not an exception to that. It's definitely not like a sexist thing. It's not excusable, but it's definitely not coming from a place of bigotry, I don't think. What does come from a place of bigotry is being like, oh, you got to start an OnlyFans. That, again, that's ridiculous. Please stop saying that. It's not funny. Like, it's not the same. Not the same thing as the China one. Like, learn Chinese. Like, they're at least still playing basketball. You're not insinuating that now they can't play basketball, so they should do porn. Like, that's crazy. Moving forward, I think it transitions pretty well, is the concept of, like, a player having, like, a Linsanity run, which is distinctly different from, like, Malachi Flynn dropping 50, because immediately after he goes, like, 0 for 12, he gets 3 points, and then he has another 3-point game, which, he didn't do very well. So, that's not a Linsanity run so much as that is a Linsanity game. But a Linsanity run, like remember Andre Ingram, that guy, G League, for his entire career, and then just all of a sudden starts playing for the Lakers because they need somebody to pick up some minutes, and he just starts dropping 20 all of a sudden, and we're like, dude, who is this guy? And it's like, he's Andre Ingram. And we're like, okay, what? Where did he come from? And they're like, he's been here the whole time. It's like, what? So things like that, or the Jeremy Lin, obviously the creator of the Linsanity name, he went on a tear, unexpected. And most of the time, it only gets national coverage because it's a national team, right? Like the New York Knicks or the Los Angeles Lakers. Like those are box office, as Stephen A. would say, or Skip Bayless. That's box office teams, right? Those teams have money. They spend the money. They make the money, right? They're big market teams. So it is often aided by that. But it's not exclusive to that. Like you definitely see, like DJ Burns, right now. Unfortunately, they lost to Purdue. NC State's run ends in the Final Four, which, I mean, come on. That doesn't matter. They eliminated Duke. That was a great run. Great run. One for the history books for sure. But I just think, like, people want to root for you until you start winning. You know, like it's Shea's example, number one of that, where, you know, he was the clutchest player in the league. People started to be like, yeah, we like the Thunder. But then the Thunder became a threat. And then all of the teams in the West are, like, losing to the Thunder. And they're like, fuck these guys. They're winning. We don't like them anymore. You can say the same thing with, like, the Warriors. When they came onto the scene and beat the Cavs that one year, it was like, okay, this is the Warriors. They're fun. And then they would go 73-9, set the wins record. And then they're like, oh, wow, yeah, like, they're really good. And people are already trying to hate them a little bit. They come back down 3-1 against the Thunder and then blow a 3-1 lead in the next series against Cleveland. Cleveland comes back. People are making fun of Curry for choking. When you are winning, they are going to stop cheering for you. Like, when you are beating their teams, especially in a playoff series, like, that's kind of why guys like Luka and Ant and Shea were so, like, loved, because it's like they haven't disrespected your team yet in the playoffs when it matters. They haven't knocked off your team. I know that. And that's why the Kings, nobody dislikes the Kings. Especially last year, people were, like, kind of rooting for the Kings. And they went 7 against Golden State. Curry drops 50, and it's like, oh, well, there go the Kings. They're not competing with that this year. So once the Kings got knocked off, then it's like, all right, well, they're not really a threat. So people still kind of, you know, like the Kings. And not that people talk about them, but it's just like the Celtics this year. You know what I mean? They built an insane team. They built a team that literally everyone wishes that they could have on their bet. Like, yeah, maybe you would rather your best player be your favorite player. You want that type of talent surrounding your favorite player on your favorite team. You just do. You're jealous. You know, you're projecting that jealousy. It's kind of hatred for these players, not full on like, oh my God, I hope they die most of the time. You know, you're going to be inclined because they're, you know, supposed to be winning to not like them. And naturally everyone wants to root for the underdog, but you can only succeed as the underdog for so long until you become the favorite. You know what I mean? Like watching the Celtics when Kyrie got surgery, Hayward got injured the first play of that season, basically. And then I think he played like 3 minutes, and then he snaps his leg. So he was done. And then Kyrie gets surgery, and then the Celtics are like led by old Al Horford. Not old Al Horford, but like 30, like mid 30, low 30, probably like 34, 33 Al Horford. And no, man, Al was actually kind of still young at that point. It doesn't matter. The point is that Al Horford, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines, like that team, they went and knocked on the door of the finals. Jason Tatum was a rookie. Game 7, Eastern Conference Finals, dunks on LeBron James, bumps him. And then after that, you know, they're the most talented team in the league because you get Kyrie and Hayward back. And then everything crumbles because there's too many egos and not enough, like, sacrifice. In my opinion, the Celtics' success this year is so cool because it, like, they have the talent, but they've redeemed that old team because that old team, you know, couldn't get anyone to sacrifice. Everyone would say, like, oh yeah, we all need to sacrifice, but not me. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you look at any interviews. Tatum's talked about it. Hayward talked about it on Paul George's podcast. Like, that's the consensus, right? So, you know, and that's the reason that Golden State only lasted like 3 years. You know, they won those 2 finals, went to the third one, was super injured, and then Durant left, you know? Golden State still got one without him after that. You know, it all happens. It's really interesting how it works, but it's, you know, you think about it. Look at the most popular and liked team in any sport and tell me that they're actually good. Like, actually good. Like, they have a chance at winning the title. They don't. You know, at best, it's like with the Nuggets where people are kind of indifferent because most Nuggets fans don't talk shit except to Lakers fans, which I respect. Like, Nuggets fans basically were like, don't even chat to us, LA. Like, stop it. We swept you. Timberwolves were harder than you. And then Lakers fans got mad at that, which, like, I get it. It's embarrassing. That's hard, though, as a fan. Like, I remember watching the series with Boston and Miami, and they just couldn't miss, dude. They just could not miss. It was crazy. Anyway, I think the point stands, and I've droned on a lot already about it. So just to wrap it, essentially, everyone loves a comeback story. Everyone loves, the underdog, but you can only be the underdog for so long. And, you're either going to lose and everyone's going to move on and forget about you, or you're going to win and you're going to be around for a while, but people are not going to, be on your side cheering as much as they were anymore because now you've made it, which is natural. That kind of wraps my point on that. I wanted to talk also about late game offense because it's kind of this weird trend in the NBA to just, in the final couple minutes of a basketball game, give your best player the ball and let him do anything, like literally anything. Like they are not running plays anymore. Not that they don't ever run plays or run sets, but there's a lot of games you watch right down to the wire and they get off a shot from the win and you're like, that's what we drew up. That's the shot. It's interesting philosophy. I get it. You want to keep the offense simple so you have less likelihood to make mistakes. But there's this balance between simplicity and predictability, right? Like the simpler it is, the more predictable it is. People see the best player dribbling the ball at the top of the key, not looking to pass, not really looking to make a move, just looking to burn the clock and shoot it. And it's like, that sucks, dude. That is so boring. And it's cool when it goes in, but like I don't believe in it anymore. I look at it, I'm like, it's going to overtime. When I see the offense get set up that way, especially when it's the Celtics, I'm like, dude, there's no way. Tatum's just not that type of scorer. He is not, like, he has moves, okay? Like, he has his sidestep move. That goes in a good amount of the time. Like, he has moves that he's practiced. He does not have the, like, put up some BS and it goes in thing. He just doesn't do it. It's not his game. So, when you see a guy like Luka or Kyrie do it, like Kyrie a while ago had that weird like lefty float hook thing against the Nuggets, like that's what he does, right? Like he's good at like the reacting on the fly. He's good at all of that. Like he is a great player in the clutch for that reason. And Shea and De'Aaron Fox are both great clutch players. De'Aaron Fox is definitely just his like tough shot ability. He almost clawed back in the fourth quarter against the Celtics. Granted, it was the Celtics, like third stringers and second stringers. Like it was like Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Svi Mykhailiuk, Xavier Tillman, and Luke Cornett out there. But that's not to say that what he was doing and the shots he was taking and making weren't impressive. But with De'Aaron Fox being a clutch guy, it's like get him the ball because he is going to get into his bag and he's going to like the James Harden step back. Like teams don't let guys get comfortable to do that, especially when they know you're doing it. So that's the thing with Shea that I like so much is Shea gets to his spots. Like he has a baseline midi that's automatic at the end of games. He's had a couple game winners like that this year. Obviously, we've watched him hit threes, clutch threes like that off the ISO, but he has that difficult shot making ability. But he also has like the ability to get off a two, and he can take it to the basket. He's a great free throw shooter. So that's why with Shea, that's a feasible offensive strategy. But with the Celtics, you have a lot of options that are more efficient than Tatum shooting that shot, right? Shea shooting that shot, he shoots it pretty efficiently. Tatum, in the playoffs, 30%, 33%, like it's pretty good for clutch numbers, whatever. If the Celtics staff members somehow ever saw this episode, this is what I want you to do. Like, let's say you got the ball, 20 seconds, shot clock's unplugged. I want Holiday in one corner, best corner shooter in the league. I want White in the other. Tatum at the top, Brown to inbound, and then Porzingis like on the wing. So you inbound to Tatum. He sets, reads the defense, right? If they're in zone, he can read it and make a play. If they're in man, he's just let him read the defense. And then I want Brown and Porzingis to come and set a pick on either side of Tatum's defender. So now Tatum can go left or right around either screen. And then You can also do motions and actions where, Brown sets a fake screen, Tatum takes the screen from Porzingis, and Brown just sets a ghost screen and cuts and slips, and then Tatum can be looking for Brown on the cut, and you can get two that way. You can also flip that and have Porzingis cut. If Brown cuts and does the ghost screen, and then you take your guy around the Porzingis screen, maybe somebody gets switched on to Porzingis too. You can exploit a mismatch there, or you've got Porzingis' guy on Tatum, and Tatum can attack. In that play set, you've already generated so many mismatches, and you still have Jrue Holiday and Derek White in the corner. So all you have to do is just make sure you watch where those defenders are, and if they sag off too much, zip it right to those guys, and then there's your shot, corner three. Corner three for game off a catch and shoot is so money. Like, that's a great shot, Like, we're talking about shot quality. It doesn't matter if it goes in, because if it goes in, like that Dame shot over Paul George, it's a bad shot. It's a bad shot attempt. It's a great shot. He made it. Any shot that goes in is a great shot. But I will say that these attempts suck. These are lazy attempts. There's minimal creativity. It's get best player ball, best player shoots ball. That's it. And I'm sick of it. That's all. That's really all it boils down to. I think teams can get a lot more creative in their late game offense. And I do think that the teams who win basketball games in the postseason do have the best late game offense. So, for what it's worth, typically at least a competent one. You don't see many teams with an incompetent fourth quarter offense making deep playoff runs. Miami, I think, was the only team to do it in history. With that said, I think that it's fine. It's totally fine, but it's kind of boring. And that's why, like, most of the time I'm rooting for a game to go to overtime. Not rooting, I'm expecting. I'm watching them. I'm watching the offense, and I'm like, yeah, this one's going OT. And I've seen a lot more takeovers in OT than I've seen game winners. I don't know why it's a pet peeve of mine, but it is. Not really a big deal. Just something I thought I would talk about. I've talked about most of the things that I was already going to, which reminds me, I need to highlight the socials that are under here. All of these, feel free to go follow those. One of them is Gmail, obviously. I think that's this one right here. Yep. And if you want to send me any emails, I got the idea from Motown Noah. It's just another way outside of the comment section to interact with you guys. And I appreciate it. If anyone wants to send an email, I will either read it on video or off, on camera or off. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Like I said, I'm just trying to make videos and talk about topics that people are interested in, or people are interested in hearing my thoughts specifically about. Obviously, I have had a lot of these ideas kind of brewing in my head. I write them down in my notes app, so it's not like I need ideas right now, but I just kind of figure setting that up and putting that email there, it's going to be worthwhile. I think I'm going to close the show here by talking about both Ben Simmons and Lonzo Ball. Back-to-back drafts, your first overall pick and your second overall pick, respectively, are just hurt all the time. And Markelle Fultz obviously was hurt, but then he went from Philly, now he's in, Orlando, and Orlando is a great team too, by the way. Love Orlando. Could talk about Paolo and how good he is. I love his toughness, the way he plays the game really physically, and I like that. It's really entertaining to watch. He plays kind of how you want, as a Celtics fan, Tatum to play, because you look at Tatum and you're like, dude, sometimes his shot is falling, and you're like, yeah, that's why he shoots those. But then he goes 1 for 6 from 3, and you're like, okay, buddy, back him down in the post, get your turnarounds, get your layups, get your blow-bys and dunks. Like, let's attack it. Let's do something different, right? So I love Paolo's game. I say all that to say that the injuries with Lonzo and Ben Simmons are just, like, concerning to me. Like, Ben Simmons, nobody cares about because everybody hates him. Like, all the Philly fans hate him, and then he kind of just, like, wasn't liked by anyone outside of Philly. So then he lost his only supporters. And, Nets fans are not the most vocal. The last time I heard from Net fans, they chanted, "We want Boston," and got swept. That's the last I've heard from Net fans. Seriously. Like, actually, that's the last thing. I haven't seen any Net fan on Twitter or anything since. Regardless, the point that I'm trying to get at here is that I don't really know if we're ever going to see Ben Simmons play basketball. He's always been a weird player because it's like he's kind of, the critique of him was that he was not like a grinder, which is so weird from a guy who's 6'10" and like should be one of the most skilled players on the planet. You know, he couldn't ever like get out of his comfort zone and shoot the jumper. You know, every year it was like a meme for like his whole career in Philly of like every preseason he'd shoot and make a three and we're like, it's over for the league. And then he would never do it ever. And we're just like, oh, okay. So this is just going to keep happening and we're going to keep falling for it. And it did. So it's like, oh, well, that sucks. Especially with Lonzo. Like the Bulls. Does anyone remember when the Bulls were like a top 4 seed in the East? Because I do. You look at Chicago and they are stuck because they're waiting. They're waiting for Lonzo to come back. I don't know. I just think it's really hard to look at a team like Chicago who basically is like, all right, well, if Lonzo doesn't come back, we are going to have to blow this up. But if Lonzo comes back, we're making a name for ourselves in the East, right? Maybe not anymore. You know, it depends on how much regression. And obviously LaVine is battling his own injuries, and DeRozan does not get younger as this time waiting for Lonzo to come back passes. So it's just like, what does Chicago do? What are they supposed to do? You know, that's my question. If I'm Chicago, I'm lost right now. If anything was clearer, this trade deadline, nobody wants LaVine. If you don't think the Bulls wouldn't have traded their players if they felt like the return they were going to get was adequate, like they would have. I'm sorry, they would have. There's no way. Like, again, with the Brooklyn thing, like I know we hear the rumors of like Mikal for 5 first-round picks. They're never turning that down. There's no way that's real. 5 firsts for Mikal Bridges. There's no way. My point is just that if Chicago could have gotten the like return on investment that they deserved for those players, they would have given them up in a heartbeat and gotten their, you know, draft picks and started the rebuild. But they're clearly like, I don't know, maybe we can make some noise here. You know, like maybe there's a shot. If Lonzo can come back and be in form, my point is he's a great basketball player, and the Bulls were playing amazing basketball, like really, really good basketball. Lonzo obviously is a great defender. He's a great passer. He is a great three-point shooter. Like, he is developed into a great NBA player, and him and LaMelo are both so fun to watch. And, you know, I just miss them. I miss them playing the game. It's crazy how far along we've come where they're not at Chino Hills anymore. Lonzo's not at UCLA anymore. Lonzo's been on so many different teams now. Like, he was in LA, then he went to New Orleans. I almost feel like, why didn't they keep Lonzo? Like, I know the injury thing, but, like, I don't know. Him and Zion would be a pretty cool duo right now. Just saying. I know they've got the whole CJ McCollum thing going. Good for them. But that's not your guy, you know? Like, that's kind of how Kemba Walker was on the Celtics. Like, Kemba Walker's cool. He's a great basketball player. Is that really the point? That's the point guard, though? Like, I just feel like the Pelicans play super fast, and they come at you, and it's super fast. And it's so fun to watch them run, and Zion keeps doing it, and then he's exhausted. And then he can't do it. Like, he does it for a half, and then he's burnt out. He needs a sub. There's something really rough about watching an NBA player try to get subbed out because they're tired. You know what I mean? You're like, damn. Well, that was really that difficult for you? Because you're so used to watching NBA players go like, oh, this is so easy. I make this look like the easiest thing ever. And then you look at Zion, and you're like, oh, that's a real dude right there. That's a human being. Like, he's exhausted doing what he just did. So, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to watch players like Zion because you know the potential's there, but the pieces are just not coming together. And that's kind of my point, too, with the Lonzo thing and the Ben Simmons thing. Is like, they're in the NBA, and they're still in the NBA. So there's clearly very, very talented players. It's just at this point where it's like, damn, you know, they're not going to meet their potential. And the door's not closed on Zion. It's just like he was supposed to be the next big guy. Same, I mean, like they did that for Andrew Wiggins too. So I always get super hyped at these young teams. Like that's why I love the Magic so much, because I wanted them to be good. They drafted Paolo, and they obviously had Franz, and then like you've got Wendell Carter, and you've got a lot of cool guys. Obviously Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony. I love those two too, but it's just like it's such a weird situation because the Magic are actually winning games. Like they could be the second seed if they really like stepped it up these final 5. They could also end up in the play-in. My point with that is that I always want the young guys to succeed, and everyone should, because root for the people who haven't had success yet to have success. Like I'm not a dynasty guy. Like obviously I want my team to be a dynasty, but like as a person who's now casually an NFL fan, the Chiefs winning sucks, and the Patriots winning objectively sucked. Nobody wants to watch the same team win again. Nobody does. And again, it's not that they don't respect the talent. It's just like, I don't know. Do you have to be so obnoxiously good? And I get that. I totally understand people's critique of teams that are so good for so long. The Warriors were 3 years with KD, and everybody got sick of that like pretty much immediately. So my point is that you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. End of story. That's really how it works. It's a weird balance where I want these guys to be good and I want them to be young, but if they do all of that and they have that success, then they're going to become the villain to a lot of different franchises because they're going to be successful instead of other people. And I'm probably yapping about a whole lot of nothing. I just recorded basically another hour. So I'm going to cut myself short and just say, be nicer to people, especially women's sports. We're doing great there. We're getting that a lot more recognition than it has been in years past. A couple points that I did not make, that I forgot to make. One, I'm not a big Duke guy. Obviously, I love Jason Tatum, but I'm not going to root for Duke. I just can't do it. Being from Maine, I might root for Duke with Cooper Flagg just because I think it's so cool that a guy from Maine is like going to be a real NBA player and like be a top pick, if not the top pick in a draft. Like, what? That's crazy to me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see how this season boils down. I don't know. I don't really have any way to wrap the show other than that. Like I said, if you have any thoughts on anything, comments, you can also check out these socials and email me if you have any ideas of videos. I'm very active on Twitter, so if you do want to give me a follow, that's that thing, and I'll, I guess, catch you guys in the next one. Take care.